UK's Foreign Secretary David Lammy called ousted Syrian President Bashar Assad the rat of Damascus in a statement to the House of Commons on Monday. Assad was a drug dealer funding his regime through Captagon and illicit finance. And we said no, because he was never, ever going to change. There were those who used to call Assad the Lion of Damascus. Now we see the reality. Assad is the rat of Damascus, fleeing to Moscow with his tail between his legs. How fitting he should end up there, he said in his address. Half a century of rule by the Assad family in Syria crumbled on Sunday after insurgents burst out of a rebel-held enclave and converged on the capital, Damascus, taking city after city in a matter of days. Opposition forces swept across the country and entered Damascus with little or no resistance as the Syrian army melted away. President Bashar Assad, Syria's ruler for 24 years succeeding his father, Hafez Assad, fled the country. Russian state media reported that he was in Moscow. Streams of refugees are crossing back into Syria from neighboring countries, hoping for a more peaceful future. The rebels face the daunting task of healing bitter divisions in a country still split among armed factions.
And some in this House asked whether we would re-engage with Assad. His Russian and Iranian allies have long championed him. Last year, he returned to the Arab League, and increasingly other governments were also starting to step up their presence in Damascus. And Deputy Speaker, this government chose not to re-engage. We said no, because Assad is a monster. We said no because Assad was a dictator whose sole interest was his wealth and his power. And we said no because Assad is a criminal who defied all laws and norms to use chemical weapons against the Syrian people. We said no because Assad is a butcher with the blood of countless innocents on his hands. And we said no because Assad was a drug dealer funding his regime through Captagon and illicit finance. And we said no because he was never, ever going to change. There were those who used to call Assad the Lion of Damascus. Now we see the reality. Assad is the rat of Damascus, fleeing to Moscow with his tail between his legs. How fitting he should end up there. We see streets of Syrians cheering his demise, tearing down his statues, reuniting with loved ones who have been disappeared. We have long hoped to see him gone and welcome the opportunity this brings for the people of Syria. Assad's demise is not just a humiliation to him and his henchmen, it is a humiliation for Russia and Iran. This House will know that the group whose offensive first pushed back the regime, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS as it's now being called, are also a prescribed terrorist organisation in the UK as an alias of Al-Qaeda. That should rightly make us cautious. Thus far, HTS has offered reassurances to minorities in Aleppo, Hama and Damascus. They have also committed to cooperating with the international community over monitoring chemical weapons. We will judge ATS by their actions, monitoring closely how they and other parties to this conflict treat all civilians in areas they control. The UK and our allies have spent over a decade combating terrorism in Syria. Daesh remains one of the most significant terrorist threats to the UK, our allies and our interests overseas. We take seriously our duty as government to protect the public from this and other terrorist threats. The humanitarian situation in Syria is dire, with almost 17 million people in need. Millions are refugees, largely still in neighbouring Turkey, Lebanon and Jordan. Seeing so many start to return to Syria is a positive sign for their hopes for a better future now that Assad is gone. But a lot depends on what happens now. This flow into Syria could quickly become a flow back out and potentially increase the numbers using dangerous illegal migration routes to continental Europe and the United Kingdom. Syria has also proven a hotbed of extremism.
The Kremlin said on Monday that Russia has granted political asylum to its longtime ally Syrian leader Bashar Assad. Russian President Vladimir Putin personally made the decision to offer asylum to Assad, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters. Such decisions certainly can't be made without the head of state, Peskov said in a conference call with reporters. It was his decision. Peskov wouldn't comment on Assad's specific whereabouts. He said that Putin wasn't planning to meet with Assad. The Kremlin spokesman said that Moscow has been doing everything needed to ensure security of its military bases in Syria. Asked about the future of the bases, he said it's too early to discuss, adding it will be a subject for talks with the new authorities. For now, we are witnessing a period of transformation and extreme instability, so it will obviously take time and require a serious conversation with those who will have power, he said. The developments have surprised the world, and we weren't an exclusion, Peskov said when asked whether the Kremlin was surprised by Assad's quick demise.
После свержения власти Башара Асада вооруженной оппозиции сейчас главная задача укрепления безопасности страны. Об этом сегодня заявил сирийский премьер. При этом судьба армии будет зависеть от нового командования. Причем не исключено лояльное отношение к вооруженным силам, которые, несмотря на многократное превосходство в силах и средствах, без боев зачастую оставляли ключевые позиции, включая Алеппо. Сам же Башар Асад сейчас находится в Москве. О том, что Россия предоставила ему гуманитарное убежище, подтвердил и постпред России при международных организациях в Вене Михаил Ульянов.
В официальном графике президента такой встречи нет. По месту нахождения господина Асада сейчас вам нечего сказать. Собственно, разумеется, подобные решения без главы государства приниматься не могут. Это его решение. Разумеется, это очень важный вопрос. И, разумеется, сейчас делается все, что необходимо, и все, что возможно, с тем, чтобы выйти на контакт с теми, кто может заниматься обеспечением безопасности. И, конечно же, наши военные тоже принимают все необходимые меры предосторожности. Пока преждевременно об этом говорить, в любом случае это все предмет для обсуждения с теми, кто будут у власти в Сирии. Сейчас мы видим, что в такой период трансформации, чрезвычайной нестабильности, поэтому, конечно, потребуется время, и потом потребуется серьезный разговор с теми, кто будет облечен властью. Произошедшее в целом, наверное, удивило весь мир. Мы в данном случае не исключение.